go.
Yeah.
Good evening.
It's a real pleasure to welcome all of you here tonight and to thank you for your support of this presentation hosted by the Nassau Institute. We would also like to take this time to thank all our corporate sponsors, namely Mr. Leroy Archer, NFC Leasing, and Custom Computers. And we fully realize without the support of people like yourselves and the corporate sponsors, the Nassau Institute would find it very difficult to survive. That's considered a pitch. And in that light, I've been asked to put a box at the end, and I won't say it's a begging box, but it's a solicitation of our funds for survival. We'd appreciate that very much. There's a young man who works as a member of the Nassau Institute who pretty well does all the work. And those of us in the Institute know that, and we are very grateful for it. But we're also very grateful for the fact that this young man brings the average age of the membership down quite a bit, and we appreciate that. And I'd like to ask this young man to come up and introduce our speaker tonight, Mr. Rick Lowe.
Thank you, Dr. Sweden. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to introduce Ralph Massey to you. Ralph has been studying this education issue for quite some time, but he'll tell you all about that, and my job is to tell you all about him. Ralph Massey graduated magna cum laude, did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes.
Phi Beta Kappa from Case University, Cleveland, Ohio, and subsequently received a master's degree in economics from the University of Chicago, where he was a Harry A. Millis Fellow and a research associate. During his 36-year business career, he worked for Ford Motor Company, Kimberly-Clark, Johns Manville and Chemical Bank that is now part of J.P. Morgan Chase, where he was seconded to the Bank of New Providence here in Nassau, Bahamas. He's a founding member of the Nassau Institute and worked as an economist for the Coalition for Education Reform. And he's going to talk to us about his new book that's been sent to the printers, but we do have a couple of copies here, The Learning Crisis. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Ralph Massey.
I want to thank you for those kind words. Today we're going to talk about a subject which all of us have an exposure to, and that is the learning crisis in the Bahamas. Everyone is aware of this because if you deal in business or you deal in a household, there is and everyone views it slightly differently, but there is a labor problem here in the Bahamas. Now, once a year, of course, the government comes out with the BGCSE scores for the examination that is taken when students leave school. So it's the high school leaving examination. Usually the discussion on that subject is limited to a single grade, the grade for all students at all schools in all subjects. And unfortunately, that grade, during the lifetime of the BGCSE test system, has remained always at a D, unchanged, suggesting that perhaps the country does suffer from a educational malaise. Once a year, also, you'll find a newspaper article which will cover a public high school graduation here on New Providence. And the fact you see is that only half of the kids leaving that school actually leave with a diploma. And the inference is that the rest fail. Today, we're not going to go talk about history. We're going to talk about three different things. We're going to talk about the BGCSE examination for 2006. I only picked 2006 because that's the last one I got data on. We're going to talk about what are the real implications of it, and we're going to go beyond whether it was a D plus, a D, or a D minus. and we're going to try to define just exactly what the tests show. The second thing we're going to talk about is the 3 fundamental building blocks on which the country can change. It's the 3 building blocks which explain the level of academic achievement in any country. And then the third thing we're going to talk about is some of the things that can be done. And where do you start? And where do we start with is a little bit of information. What we have here is a pie chart. The results of this is the results of one important examination in the VGCSE test for 2006. 18% pass, 36% fail, 46% pass, and are illiterate. First off, though, we ought to start from the beginning. And the beginning for me at this time was I requested from the Department of Education the data on the 2006 BGCSE examination. And what I got on the internet, sent to me by a huge email, was a spreadsheet that was 14 columns wide. And that accommodated the 8 grade designators for academic achievement, plus columns for summation and calculation. Now this spreadsheet covered 90 reporting schools, 26 subjects for each of the reporting schools. And the length of this thing, at the bottom, of course, you come down the columns which add up to all schools and subjects. And that particular year, there were 22,000 examinations given. Now, the Department of Education deserves a big pat on the back for maintaining the system in the way they have done it. It is an important thing. But what we have to do is we have to go beyond the numbers. And what this is a graph of those 22,000 examinations. On the right-hand side, you have columns, and you'll recognize the first 4 designators, A, B, C, D. What you don't recognize is the next 4 designators, E, G, F, and U. Now, the way you read this examination, this chart, is that 7% of all these 22,000 examinations, 7% got an A, 28% got a C, and lo and behold, only 8% got an F. Surprise of all surprises. It's a pleasing graph. It starts low, goes to a peak, and goes down to the other end. It's like a bell-shaped curve. The system has specific designations for standards for each of these grades. So there is a definite performance level for not only A, B, and C, but also for F, G, and U. The problem is that the F you see there is not an F for failure. The BGCSE examinations don't have that concept that someone fails. Now, when you're looking at the Bahamas and you want to say, and you hear these stories about graduation time and half the kids don't get a degree, and then you want to say, well, what's the real story? And so what you do is the only data you can look at, since the Department of Education does not collect and publish pass-fail statistics on the system, or they don't produce the average, grade average for students by school, by subject, and whatever. What you have to do is you have to look at this, and the thing to do is to convert it to a 5-point system. And doing that, all you do is you take grades E through U, combine them into an F, and this is what you get. And what you see is, yes, 7% got A's, 28% still got C's, but now